Okay. Here we go. And I have invited some people who are not Rumpled people, so we may have some visitors, which would be great.
Good.
Morning. We're sitting distant.
So you can move up closer if you'd like.
That's good, Misty.
Okay.
Enrique, just so you know what you're looking at, that's our church fellowship hall. So some people
Right.
are live and in person and some people are at home.
Good.
Well, I have 9:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. If you know how to mute yourself, if you will mute yourself, that would be great. And I'm going to tell you what's happening and we'll pray and then we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Stephanie Hankins and I'm the parish associate pastor at Rumpel Memorial Presbyterian. But I did not come up with this idea for these classes myself. We have a creation care committee at our church now that is fairly new, that's been working on a lot of different things. We most recently, and we're very excited about this, have just this week, hot off the press, turned in an application to become an Earth Care congregation. That was a long form that a group of us worked on to fill out. Enrique must have done it too. He's nodding his head. And then Hope, who's on the screen with us, finished it off for us and turned it in this week. So we're very excited about that. We're also, as our church is looking, as we're working on our building project, trying to help the church think about ways that we can be earth friendly in our building process as well. So anyway, we'd love to have any of you join us on that committee if that is something that is of interest to you. We're always love to be welcoming of new members of that. One other thing that we've done is, and Misty can show and tell for us, is we've bought some green Bibles for the library. You can see, very nice, very nice. Those are really neat. If you remember, I'm sure most of us do, the red letter Bible that had the words of Jesus would be in red script. Anything that's about creation is in green font. And so it's a really cool thing to flip through this Bible and see, wow, so much of what we have in our scripture talks about creation. So we'll put those in the church library and you're welcome to borrow them anytime you like. Okay, this morning we have two speakers. I'm going to introduce the first one. We're going to go for a certain amount of time, half the time. We'll stop. Wes will be our second speaker and Mike's going to introduce him before he speaks. I'll be the timekeeper. And then at the end, we'll have some time for questions for both people. We wanted to make sure they both have equal time. So hold your questions to the end if you don't mind. And let me tell you a little bit about Enrique, who you should be able to see on your screen. Enrique is an international economist from Argentina. He retired in 2005 after 30 years in the corporate world. He turned green in the early 2000s and started including the subject in his global economic analysis. And after retiring, he engaged in habitat with solar installations on Habitat houses and also at the Restore. In 2017, he and his wife moved to Hendersonville, North Carolina, so he's not too far from us, to reduce their carbon footprint by downsizing and to be closer to their grandkids. They joined Trinity Presbyterian Church in Hendersonville in 2018, and Enrique became one of the leaders in their solar project and now chairs Trinity's fairly new Earth Care ministry and is also on the steering team of the Creation Care Alliance in Western North Carolina. And we've had some connection with them in various ways. So we're very glad you're here. And let me open us with a quick prayer and then we'll get started. Let us pray. Gracious God, there is so much to be thankful for in your good creation. Each day when we go outside, we are amazed and awed by all that you have done. Be with us during this time. Help us to learn new things. Open our hearts and minds to hear what your Spirit is saying to us today. We give you special thanks for Enrique and for Wes for sharing their time and talents with us and also with your good creation. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, Enrique, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And let me start right away because I do have to confess that Stephanie gave me, can you all hear me? Start from there?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Stephanie gave me virtually an impossible mission for today. We first started, can you come and talk about the creation care of Alliance in Western North Carolina? And then she added, oh, and tell us what you're doing in your church. And then she, oh, by the way, you give us, why don't you give us some biblical quotes and challenges and whatnot. And oh, by the way, it's not going to be 1 hour. It's only going to be only half an hour. So she kept raising the bar. So it's, as Stephanie mentioned, I'm a member of the steering team in the Creation Care Alliance of Western North Carolina. Okay, and so today I will be switching hats, whether representing the CCA or I'm telling you also some stories about our church. So I will start with the last part of Stephanie's challenge. Okay, let's start with the biblical quotes. Okay, and I'm sure that you're quite familiar with those. Just take 3. Okay, we can go through the whole Green Bible. Okay, but just straight, let's begin with Genesis 1. Okay, where in the first story of creation, basically God said, "Be fruitful, multiply." You're all familiar with this old revised standard edition of the Bible. And but I highlighted one particular sentences, okay? Those that basically are at the end of the quote, have dominion over the fish of the sea and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. That's Genesis 1:28. Okay? When you go to the second story of the Bible, of creation in the Bible, the Lord God took humans, put them into the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. Okay? And let's keep those 2 different versions in there for a moment. Okay, the first one, because I like to get you some reflection upon the 2 versions in there, particularly on the areas that I highlighted. If we go to a third quote in there that I chose for today, Numbers 35:34. You shall not defile the land on which you live, in the midst of which I dwell. For I, the Lord, dwell in the midst of people of Israel. So let's focus, let's remember, let's reflect, let's memorize those highlighted areas in there. What is my favorite interpretation of the Bible? One of the recent ones by Eugene Peterson related to the subject, where it is not a direct translation, but a true interpretation of words by words in the Bible, which translates, basically puts Genesis 1:28 into let us make human beings in our image. Notice the human beings, not man. Make them reflecting our nature so they can be responsible for the fish in the sea and the birds in the air and everything that moves on the earth. Emphasis on so they can be responsible. Food for thoughts that I leave with you. First interpretation in the Revised Standard Edition of the Bible, okay? Dominion theology. dominion theology, then between Genesis chapter 1 and 2, you have a huge difference in the understanding between dominion theology and creation theology. And the issue is, what is creation theology? In very few words, is the belief that God created the whole earth, not only humans, and that we humans are part of creations, not above creation. That we humans are part of a whole living ecosystem, and that we are responsible for it. So if God is part of all of creation, then the question is, how can we separate God from creation? That is the question. And how can we proclaim that we must love God and stop there and not love his creation? So those are, again, food for thoughts, okay? And I will leave you with another related quote that I picked up from Richard Rohr, the Franciscan monk, that is in reference to a book written by Christine Walters Painter. Today we live in what we might call an age of forgetting. We have forgotten who we are in relation to everything else. The creatures, the plants, the mountains, the forests, the oceans, one another, and even ourselves. With every plastic we discard, with every poison we release on land and in water, with every fossil fuel that we extract, we are living in a fog of amnesia, and we damage the earth. Food for thought. First challenge that Stephanie gave me will take you several classes to discuss. So I'm planting the seeds of discussion. What is creation care then? In very simple terms, it's simply the love for our human and non-human neighbors to the fullness of the world. That is what creation care is all about. And that means we love not only the two-legged animals, but also the four-legged. We love the swimming creatures. We love the flying creatures. We love even the crawling creatures, even the squirrels that get into our roofs, even the cockroaches. Okay, fine. I may have second thoughts on that, but in any case, every single thing that on earth has life, we are mandated to love. Within that context and within those two thoughts, okay, the biblical quotes that I mentioned and this conception of creation care, what is the Creation Care Alliance of Western North Carolina? Now, this is a very long definition, and probably this is what you find in the website. Okay? We are a program of Mountain True. Okay? We operate under the umbrella of Mountain True. But in this long statement of mission and vision, which I think is a combination of these two concepts, okay, there are several words that are worth highlighting also. CCA is a network of people of faith and congregations who have united around the moral and spiritual call, which were given by those quotes that I mentioned on the Bible. What have we united for? To preserve four things: the integrity, the beauty, and the health of God's creation. And in a form of a coalition, of an alliance, we try to bring practical and hopeful ecological solutions to our congregations and to broader secular communities. How are we going to do it? By engaging our hearts and minds through four things: inspiring others, educating others, providing services, and advocacy. How are we going to do it? What is our work then? Why do we want to do it? Our work is an expression of our love for God and God's love on earth and all life. So the actual description and mission of the Creation Care Alliance describes what we are. At the steering team of the CCA, we are extremely conscious of this, and we are constant reminders. Because in practical terms, okay, what do we offer through the Creation Care Alliance? We offer opportunities for preachings. We offer retreats for faith leaders. We offer specific retreats. Most of them were done at Montreat, at the conference centers, with which you are very familiar, to basically train pastors and help pastors in their mission to proclaim or to expand the concept of earth caring. We offer advocacy opportunities, services opportunities, particularly when there are ecological disasters. One example that I can mention was a group of different churches that went over to assist in Haywood County a couple of months ago when we had the major floods in that region. In the times of COVID, particularly, we expanded a lot book studies on online. Several books, we went through several books in reference to caring for the earth. Okay. We also have a very interesting 8-week program, okay, called Eco-Grief Circles. Okay. We started those programs, and they are it's a series of online and or, when COVID permits them, okay, in-person sessions of small groups that are basically in grief for the severe deterioration of the environment. One of those groups actually started last week. Anybody who is interested, there might be, I emphasize the word, time to join on the second session. They go on for 8 weeks, and you develop very tightly, nicely, close together groups. These groups, the eco-griefs, are actually being expanded not only nationally, but even internationally. And we have one circle that is already expanding in the Netherlands. And we have had participants all the way from California to Canada to Colorado to Texas, Boston, you name it. Okay. Wonderful. I did the exercise twice, and it was extremely helpful. And there are other activities there that we offer through CCA. One of the things that we have in the CCA website, I would highly encourage you to to visit the website. Okay? This is a, let me see if this works, okay? Yes. This is a guide for creation care. Yeah. If you go to the website, I will send this information to Stephanie. Okay? And up on that particular page, okay, you click a general guide, which is a very nice but summarized grid, okay, with different subjects relative to the caring of creation, such as waste, food, transportation, workshop, reconnecting with nature, how to do classes, how to children and youth, and so on, and different states of your development in those areas, okay? Developing the practice of creation caring. Okay? If you notice on the right side, okay, this area, okay, is mostly related to areas where churches divide the congregation in committees. Okay? You have spiritual worship. So anyways, the important thing in here, let me see if I can go back there, is that, let's say that you are on the early stages, okay, of forming your creation care group. You go to that area in fellowship and outreach, click on the creation care teams, okay? And depending on the stage that you are, you simply click on that area and you have, if you want, a manual, okay, that you can resort with multiple resources oriented to that specific activity. Extremely useful tool. You have general information, and you have the links, for example, to the environmental ministries at PCUSA. You have the link to Presbyterian for Healthcare, to any type of denominations that are in the Alliance. Okay? Extremely helpful resource to bear in mind. So let me get back to the actual presentation. No, and if I can, and if not, okay. 3 words on how we at Trinity Presbyterian Church got involved in CCA. We were one of the initial supporters of the Creation Care Alliance in about 6 or 7 years when the program started. And but we were, call it, not heavily involved in it at the beginning. In 2018, Trinity Presbyterian, at Trinity, we decided to start to do some solar panels. Straightforward, we just went for the big things. And that is Trinity Presbyterian. By way of comparison, it's about the same size as Rampart Presbyterian. We have about 300 members in the nominal list, and we have about 180 or 200 active. Okay? And during the COVID times, we have about 100, 120. Okay? Huge program. Okay? Basically, this was installing the solar panels on the church represented an additional contribution of almost 20%, 20% of the total annual budget. But you can't be afraid of it. We did it. And not only did we do it, through the CCA Alliance, we basically help other churches to do it. There are currently 25 churches, at least 25 churches in Western North Carolina that have solar panels. So you're not alone, and you can get a lot of experience from the mistakes or the lessons learned from other churches. This is a completely one whole session, Sunday school session, if you're interested. And of course, as a former economist, I had to have a chart on what it saved in the last 5 years. Okay. Simplified at Trinity, Earth Caring Ministry. We need to have a charter. That's what session asked. Okay. And session approved it. I can send you all that information. That is precisely the type of benefits that you can have, that anyone has joining or becoming a covenant partner at the CCA. This is our purpose in our charter, just recently approved by our session. And you know what it is in the Presbyterian process-oriented polity. Okay, we can talk a lot about that. Okay? We, in essence, we basically answer one question. Okay? As we discern, I had to use that word in the concept of an earth ministry. How can we be better caretakers of Mother Earth and God's creation? It's as simple as that. Okay? And we are oriented, of course, to service, okay? Not only in the 3 aspects that our session has approved, which are education and awareness, services, and exemplary leadership, both within the church community and in outreach. Okay? So those were the things that were approved by session at Trinity. And so getting back to CCA, and hopefully have 21 seconds. This is an open invitation to all of you at Rumpel. Come and join us. Work with us. CCA is working, has at least, right now we have about 25 covenant churches. And we work with over 70 congregations in Western North Carolina. Follow us on social media. Go to creationcarealliance.org. Sign up for our newsletter. As I mentioned, the Echo Grief Circle started last week. Okay. So if you connect today or in this week, they meet on Fridays, you might be able to enter. Next week, on Sunday at 4 o'clock, okay, we will have on Zoom a webinar with William Barber III. Okay? And I have to do a footnote in there. Okay? It is the son of William Barber II. And William is a well-known environmentalist. He's a lawyer, And he's going to address the issue of environmental injustice, race, class, and climate change. I can send you, Stephanie, all the information separately, or you can access CCA website and just in the events for the month, you have the direct registration form and link. That promises to be an amazing program because it ties together what we within the Presbyterian world are talking about so much between Matthew's 25 initiative and Earth Caring, and this brings the two themes together. Okay? So this is next Sunday at 4 o'clock. We already have over 150 or 200 people who have already registered. Okay? It is free, and you're welcome and encouraged to do a separate discussion afterwards. That is what many of the churches that are involved. There are 7 churches in Hendersonville that have sponsored this speaker, and so anyways, that's the next event. Okay, and by signing up for the monthly newsletter, it's only monthly, then you are kept up front of all the events that are organized in, and you can participate in any of them. They're all free, by the way. Okay? That is basically, we fund those by sponsorships, as like the churches that sponsor William Barber, or and by becoming a covenant partner in with CCA. So we invite you to become a covenant partner and stay in touch. The CCA is divided into regions, okay? And Blowing Rock is in the high country region. Your rep there is representative there is Anna Shine, who is absolutely dynamic. I really, really like her. She and a couple of other churches are developing a curriculum for an Earth Caring camp to be taking place in your region. Okay? So stay tuned for your youth and for your children. And finally, of course, you can contact anytime our director, Sarah Ogletree, who is absolutely dynamic. And if you see my cursor, this person here holding the certificate is Sarah Ogletree, and she came on board last July or August. So I'm going to stop there. I was thinking about opening up for questions, but I think it's going to be better for fairness to leave the time for Wes. But when we come back, I invite you to think about these 2 or 3 questions, any thoughts, any reactions. How can we help you from the Alliance? And we're also interested to know what the creation care efforts are you currently undertaking, and how can we help you?
Thank you, Enrique. All right, Mike, you're up.
Okay, so I think all of you already know Wes. There might be a person or 2 on here who doesn't, so I'll do a quick introduction. Of course, many of you know Wes and his family as members of the Rumpel congregation, very active members of that. But let me tell you some background that you may not be familiar with, even if you know Wes well. Wes, of course, is well known as an artist who's best known for his bold watercolor landscapes, including some examples right here in the Rumpel buildings. Wes began painting early in his life, and he's held over 15 exhibitions. He served as a workshop instructor, a product consultant, a presenter, and a juror for a number of art-related businesses and organizations. Of course, Wes worked at Appalachian State for the last 34 years. All that time in the Student Learning Center of University College, but in a variety of different roles. So he served as the director of the Upward Bound program for 12 years and was director of University Tutorial Services for another 12 years. And then finally, for 10 years, the director of technology support in that center. And then he retired in May of 2020. Today, Wes is here to talk to us about his work as the executive director of the nonprofit Clean Wilson Creek, which is dedicated to the protection of that spectacular river right here just below us in Blowing Rock. So welcome, Wes. We look forward to hearing about your work there and to the work that we can do together with Clean Wilson Creek.
Thank you, Mike. Enrique, that was a really powerful presentation and exciting. Can everybody hear me? Okay, good. I think you'll have a hard time not seeing, hopefully you'll have a hard time not seeing strong connectivities between what I'm going to talk about in terms of this pocket wilderness area that really literally lies on our back doorstep at Rumpel Church. You just take a 16-mile downhill drive on a gravel road. It's quite adventurous, and you're basically driving into the middle of nowhere. And I've had a kind of a lifelong devotion and love affair with this place as a wilderness area that's inspired a lot of my work. And in 2018, well, actually earlier than that, I realized sections of the river were really in a crisis state in terms of abuse and overuse. And one person at that time had been trying for 10 years on his own, who manages a small country store in this area, to take care of it by himself. And this man is quite a story in his own right. Bruce Gray, he has traumatic brain injury and is there in a wheelchair. He's paraplegic. And he and his staff had basically been trying to clean up trash for 10 years on their own, with very little help from the stakeholders, the Forest Service and other public and private landholders. And in 2018, I still had three or so years to go, Mike, before I retired. So I really wasn't trying to get out of my job, but I really felt a strong call that somebody needed to step up and take some leadership to address this issue. I've been coming to the area since I was 18 years old I led a trip. I was the president of the North Carolina State Outing Club, which is an adventure club back in the day. And I wanted to take our group somewhere off the grid rather than all the normal places like the Smokies and Mount Rogers. And so I picked Wilson Creek on the topo map and realized it was very remote. And we took a backpacking group up there, and from that point forward, I don't think the place has ever left my mind for very long. It's just a spectacular kind of primeval wilderness, purest watershed that we have in this area. Native trout, wildlife, black bear, deer, wild turkey. Many of the things that Enrique said kind of make you reflect on Wilson Creek and our spiritual connection with places like this to take care of them and to provide stewardship for them. So I took it on in 2018, and I'm going to start by showing you a couple things. I think I can share my screen here, but I've got a long personal history with the area. And the first thing I wanted to show you is sort of personal. Many of you know I'm caring for my mom right now, who's 96, and she has advancing dementia. This is my mom on the beach of Brown Mountain Beach of Wilson Creek in 1945 with her friend Ruth. And she and Ruth and my father and Ruth's husband went up there camping quite often. And this is a photo that I came across of just a couple years back, and I never knew it existed. And point in fact, this place where they are in the summer of this year, we'll be launching a physical conservation center on the banks of the river that the current owners are making available to us as a nonprofit group. So it's going to be basically a regional conservation center where we can educate people on better taking care of the place. But the interesting thing is, even with my mom, and I'm caring for her 3 to 4 days a week in Statesville, even with her advancing dementia. Ruth is her friend that is still living. So Ruth is 94, and Ruth will call her once or twice a week. And those conversations come back to my mom with complete clarity, and you would not know there's anything at all going on with her when those conversations occur. So that is pretty incredible to me. And I just thought it would be kind of cool to share that with you regarding my own personal connection, besides just my backpacking experiences there. The other thing I wanted to do is to, let me get the right one here, right screen share. Yeah, here we go. The first thing I realized that I needed to do was to shine a light on how bad the problem was in terms of abuse and overuse. We're talking primarily in the summer, where groups come from 2 to 3 hours away to use the river really as a free water park, because it's very accessible. It is a declared national wild and scenic river, but that comes with limited protections when there's a state highway that runs right up beside it. And I use the term highway loosely. It's a gravel road, Brown Mountain Beach Road, but it's swamped by hundreds of cars coming as far away from Matthews, Concord, with groups of 20 and 30 people, because again, it's cold water, it's free, it's a beautiful place. And so the first thing I realized, as I mentioned, only one person, Bruce, in this area had been trying to take care of it and clean it up. The Forest Service and Caldwell County government and the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission all own tracts of land within this property, within this 15-mile stretch of river. But honestly, none of them were really stepping up, because I think the problem was so overwhelming. Nobody really wanted to take ownership of it. And it was very complex because of these various land jurisdictions. So the first thing I realized we needed to do was to shine a light on this. And therefore, people who love this river, and many, many do, would step up and start pressuring these organizations to get involved and to do something. So Andy and Gigi and I went down in 2018 and made a little YouTube clip, and it is on our website. The complete clip's about 11 minutes long. I'm going to just show you a portion of it. Hopefully it'll play. But the complete clip is on our website, along with a lot of other information, volunteer form and donation opportunities and photographs. And that is a cleanwilsoncreek.org. So it's just all one word, no spaces, a Clean Wilson Creek. Bruce had started the nonprofit, but really had no management skills and had never gotten it fully approved and validated with the IRS. So I kind of rebranded it, took it over, got all that done, and I rebranded it as a Clean Wilson Creek. It had been formerly called Wilson Creek's Cleanup Fund. And so this is kind of the beginnings of the story. So this is back in 2018. And I will tell you that a lot has changed positively since then. Tremendous amount of changes have taken place because of the team that's come together and the efforts we've made. But this kind of shows you where we started. So I'm going to try to play this.
Repeated fires and floods eventually took their toll on the community, leaving only historic ruins, a National Forest Service work center and campground, and Betsy's Country Store to represent the town of Mortimer. A diverse array of recreational users, the small community of landowners, and this tiny country store and campground form the basis for daily life in Mortimer. Day hikers, picnickers, and swimmers, fly fishing enthusiasts, backcountry campers, cyclists, and adventure touring motorcyclists riding the Trans-America Trail all tend to form the basis for users of this wilderness. In the summer months especially, recreational day users come to the lower portions of the river in droves on weekends. The 8-mile stretch of river along Brown Mountain Beach Road experiences a high volume of visitors and vehicles on summer weekends. Wilson Creek becomes a free and incredible water park of sorts, with beautiful vistas, sun-warmed boulders, and icy cold water to address extremely hot days. Who could blame anyone for wanting to be in Wilson Creek on a 95-degree day? However, the lack of road and facility infrastructure to support these crowds, along with severe negligence of the pack-it-in, pack-it-out philosophy, results in mountains of debris, human waste, and occasional vandalism. This is the issue a Clean Wilson Creek nonprofit organization is going to work hard to address in the years ahead. This river is too great a gift of nature for us to turn away from difficult challenges.
The first time I drove out here was an adventure because I had just moved to this area and I started down the river and I was so overcome by the beauty of it. I had never seen anything that beautiful. And I found out about the Wilson Creek Fund where they clean up this creek. It doesn't get beautiful on its own. I didn't realize it the first time I came, but this place is beautiful because people keep it clean. The people that work here at this little store in the middle of nowhere go out in their trucks twice a day, sometimes on the weekends 3 times a day. They pick up hundreds of bags of garbage. They go out and take off the graffiti, off of the stones. They clear stuff out of the water that people just leave, not thinking. And it's a big chore, but somebody's got to do it. And the people here have the heart to do it. Mr. Bruce has taken on this task for years. And it seems like it's a struggle for him because the people in the community don't realize how hard of work that is to go out every day and get this trash and dispose of it.
My name's Brandon Hitcher. Wes and I is getting ready to go do the morning trash pickup. I do a trash pickup every day, sometimes twice daily, up to 700 or 800 pounds a day, and every pickup. Just picking up beer bottles and just all the trash that everyone leaves behind.
So this is the weekend, Brandon, before July 4th.
Yeah.
So we're expecting a pretty big
turnout. Yeah, but this is going to be happening in place. So I'm gonna have to go about twice a day and probably about $40 a day in gas to do this, and it's super hot.
We are here at the one rest area, the one luxurious rest area on Brown Mountain Beach Road. And this is the results of yesterday's activities on the river. We have National Forest pickup 1 day a week, correct, Brandon? Tuesdays. So it would be, today's Sunday. This would sit here for 2 days, and we would have
Also have today's trash. It's gonna be
oh yeah, today, you saw the people coming in today. So this would sit here till Tuesday, and then today's trash would sit here on top of this. At least the people have brought it to the station, but the wildlife will ravage it, and you can imagine what would result between now and Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll be spread all in through the woods. The bear just takes the whole bag and tries to go hide somewhere.
So let's get busy.
Okay.
And we've got another 2 miles,
No, about another mile.
another mile.
But we got some more up top. I gotta go back up.
Yeah, but another mile down to paved Brown Mountain Beach, right?
Yeah. That's right.
And I don't think we got a lot more room, do we?
No, we don't.
We're here in Collettsville, and Susie is being refueled for the journey back to Mortimer. And Susie has 258,000 miles on her and needs power steering wheel quite often.
He falls through the top. He's about 300 pounds.
Have you seen more than one this season?
No, it's him. Just him.
So this is 9 a.m. Sunday morning, so we're getting ready to go hit the day after.
Yep. Before the morning crowd gets here. I had to do it twice today. Yeah, just as much.
I'm Bruce Gray. I own Betsy's Old Country Store in beautiful downtown Mortimer, North Carolina. The reason why I'm telling you this is because I live in the most beautiful place on the planet, not just in the mountains of North Carolina, but anywhere. There's a lot of things going on up here that will totally blow your mind if you ever come to the neighborhood. However, I've got a little problem. A lot of people do come up here and they leave their garbage. So my sole purpose now is to make sure that this place stays as beautiful, clean, and natural as it is intended to be. Thank you very much.
So that is sort of where a cleanwilsoncreek.org started. Happy to report that since then, through a lot of team building and organization, and as you might imagine, this did get a lot of attention, particularly from the jurisdiction holders and the National Forest Service and the North Carolina Wildlife Commission and Caldwell County. So it did, you know, I was prepared for somewhat of an uproar, and it kind of did it. But, you know, I worked really hard kind of on the political front and the federal front to not criticize or place blame, but to say, hey, we need your help. What can we do together? And since then, we've 2.5 years ago, we got sponsored by the National Forest Service as a legitimate NFS nonprofit doing conservation work. And we've also been sponsored by North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission since. So both of those entities provide us with supplies and equipment. And we actually were able to move from Betsy's store, which was kind of our base station, to that white work building. And we have a space there. We now have 7 dumpsters along the river that didn't exist before. And we have 3 sets of new bear-proof trash cans along various points. So a lot of really, really good things have happened. We have a volunteer base of around 150 people on the volunteer roster now. And, you know, again, we'll talk about opportunities for people that want to volunteer, but we formalize the volunteer process in terms of a training and orientation to go out and pick up safely. It is kind of a dangerous area because of the rocks and trails and snakes occasionally and things like that, but we pretty much limit the risk. The most dangerous thing we do is the traffic on this road, so we have to be very cautious about that. But we've come a long way, and we're really excited about the future. Are we okay on time, Stephanie? Okay. One other thing I wanted to show you, our website, again, has a photo gallery that shows all the activities that have happened and groups we brought in, scout groups, local groups, and a lot of the utilization on the lower part of the river is Latino, and they come from far away to use the area on weekends. And we just, in the last several months, got involved with a Latino hiking group that is going to join our team, and we're going to be doing training for them in April. And they are 400 members strong, and they hike all over the Southeast region. And they're the leaders of that group. It's called Enteros Adventureros, I think. But the leaders of that group are two women, one based in Charlotte and one based in Morganton. And they are super excited about getting their group involved with us to get out on the river and to do conservation education, particularly with the Hispanic population there. So our website is got a blog, and we've got all kinds of opportunities to donate, to volunteer. We have a volunteer form. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of the website is the complete video that you watch there. The other really, really cool thing that's happened in the last year is I worked really closely with a young man who's a award-winning photojournalist and documentary filmmaker that's getting ready to graduate from that program at Appalachian State, Jesse Barber. He's 28 years old, and he and I worked over the last year and a half to put together a documentary with him being the producer and the filmmaker, and I just gave him input. But the documentary has been out now for about 6 months. It's won placement in 5 national documentary film festivals. It was just shown in Oregon a couple weeks ago, and it will be shown in Boone on February 26th at the Boondocks Film Festival. So I can't really show you the whole film, but I wanted to show you the trailer. I thought Jesse did a beautiful job. He is basically a photo and video storyteller, and he really focuses on a lot of what Enrique was talking about, was where we as humans fit into this dynamic of using the wilderness and taking care of it, or consequently abusing it. And so that's his real focus, and he did a beautiful job of telling the story. It is a short documentary. It's only 15 minutes, but I'm going to show you the trailer to that, if this will play.
Trash. What is trash? Trash is when you drank all your stash. Yeah.
The town of Mortimer. Originally, this was going to be a resort area. Prior to the 1916 flood, it was actually a bustling little place.
My father was one of the very first Green Berets in history. And this is where they trained before they went to Vietnam.
They had power. They had water to all the homes. For a town to have all that available to it was unreal.
You know, the traditional theologies tell us man is supreme.
This is what it looked like after the lumber companies were here. True clear cutting, and it allowed all the water to come through and have major floods through the area.
You know, we see from past situations, logging and exploitation of places like this, that has its own set of consequences.
This is a jewel in the crown of our country, not just Caldwell County, not North Carolina, for the entire country. No place else on the planet like this.
This is it. Step one, a place.
So that kind of, I guess, best paints the picture of what we're trying to do down there and what we've done over the last 5 years. What I would say in conclusion is we're at a really, really exciting place. We have a great core team, leadership team, and I'm the director, and my assistant director is a retired forensic medical doctor named Patty Mazzucato, who lives in Morganton. And Patty is a real go-getter and has helped me develop a lot of connectivity with resources for the river. And we've, like I said, we've been able to recruit a volunteer base and a scheduling system and training and orientation for up to, usually we go out and around 10 volunteers at a time. But a lot of really cool relationships have been built. And now we're at a point with this new conservation center where we can focus less on infrastructure. You saw in the initial clip, Brandon and I were physically loading mountains of garbage and hauling them 6 miles up the river. Most of that has been taken care of now because of the dumpster infrastructure that the Forest Service, Caldwell County, and North Carolina Wildlife has provided. So we're not doing that kind of work anymore, which is wonderful. So now we can focus more on waterfront trail hiking and getting out and interacting with people to educate them on conservation practices and to let them know that we need their help. And believe me, that is tremendously effective when we have the ability to do that, to send those volunteers out to interact with people. And as the clip mentioned, we do it in a very friendly, non-confrontive way. We make friends with them. We try to throw in a little conservation education if possible, but that's where we are. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Wes. Okay, we're at 10:30. I think we can take like 2 minutes for if anyone has a burning question or comment, either one.
Thanks to both of you presenters. That was really special. And we need to find a way to get more folks in our community, both Rumpel and otherwise, to appreciate both of those two presentations, which are excellent. Am I correct, Enrique, that CCA that we're pretty familiar with, it's not restricted to Presbyterians, the 25 churches you mentioned?
Correct.
Correct. It can be a broader group in the high country than just our one church. So it's great, and I hope we can find ways to get both of the videos that Wes referenced. Both the one, I think they're both roughly about 15 minutes or something. One is the Wilson Creek, and the other is Jesse Barber's. And so if we could find a way to air both those, perhaps in the same session sometime for a larger group, would be wonderful. But
Wes, can you put Wes, would you put the link to the last trailer in the group chat?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can put both of those links into
Okay.
the chat. Sure.
Okay. And I did put a cleanwilsoncreek.org in there too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Those type of short programs are ideal to pass at churches.
Yes. Yeah. I do agree that, and I mean, with both of you, we could have a whole hour on lots of different parts of your, what we talked about today. So thank you so much and they actually went together so beautifully as well too. So thank you for all your preparation and time spent with us this morning. We are very appreciative for both of you. I want to remind you that next week we have Jessica, let me make sure I'm saying her name. Oh, I had it pulled up. Jessica Malden Phelps, is that right? Yes, who works for the Presbyterian Hunger Program. And she's the Associate for Sustainable Living and Earth Care Concerns. She will be here next week. And then for our third week, we have Dr. David Jones, who was the director of the North Carolina Zoo for 20 years. He's retired now, but he will be joining us in 2 weeks. So we hope that you'll come back. Feel free to invite your friends to come and join us. And again, if you are a Rumpel member or attendee and are interested in joining our Creation Care group, we'd love to have you join us. And Russ, is Russ still there? Yay. Russ said he would close us with prayer.
All right, wherever you are this morning, will you pray with me? Holy God, you called us into creation with you, to walk with you and enjoy the earth and all that is in it, and we know that all belongs to you. We ask that you now send us out from this place to be your heart and your soul working in this world for good. And we ask all these things in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I wish we had more time together, but I'm so thankful that we've had this hour. Thanks so much to Enrique and Wes, and for all of you for being here too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Stephanie.
Bye.